And we are live. Good to see you today, my EOS podcast writer friends, my EOS writer podcast friends. We've got MaxDapp on the show today. This is going to be a really fun show. We're going to talk about EOS, everything new going on right now, the EOS Strider, and a little bit of Bitcoin drama. So all kinds of fun stuff. Welcome to the show, Max. How you doing today?
Dude, I am great. It's always a pleasure coming on your show. This is the second time. And like you said, yeah, MaxDapp, I do DApp reviews. If you don't know me, I got a YouTube channel, people, so check me out. And we're going to do all that EOS talk, man. Like, we'll talk about EOS, Bitcoin at the moment. It's gone crazy. There's so much stuff to talk about, dude. Like, this is going to be a good podcast.
Yeah, for sure. It's you know, some other crazy stuff. Telegram went down today, and like I had like a crypto meltdown. I didn't know how to contact people across the globe. So we'll talk about, you know, all that stuff. But
yeah, man, it was like a blackout. Like I couldn't. I was trying to contact you. I was like, dude, I got to do an edit tonight, and you were like, didn't reply. I was like, what happened to Brandon? Like, is he evaporated off the planet, man? If we didn't have Telegram, I don't know. I literally wouldn't be able to go back to a time before Telegram.
Yeah, I know. It's a time before crypto and a time before Telegram, time before blockchain. Yeah, that's old school.
Doesn't work, bro.
Yeah, we can't go back. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. So, so let's get on to EOS a little bit here to start off. What do you think the most interesting stuff going on right now is?
Oh, dude, it's such a good question. Like, and it's such a big question as well, because like there is. Where should we start? So. We had the big burn. That was like recent news. We burnt the inflation, which was really cool to see that actually happen because, you know, it actually goes to show that delegated proof of stake, you can actually get things done really quickly. We've got the June announcement coming up, which is awesome. I'm so excited for that. That's coming like, how long we got? 15 days, less than 15 days. We've also got dApps coming on board. I've literally been reviewing. I'm getting probably like 3 or 4 different DApp companies just send me messages on Telegram saying, do you want to do a review? And I'm like, there's so many new dApps coming out. A lot of them are casino dApps, I get it. But I think there will be a place for casino dApps in the future. But it's like, there's so many more dApps coming on. We got the June announcements coming. And dude, it's just looking to me like, I can't really specifically say anything. Everything about EOS is awesome. Even the content creators, you know, we've got so many new content creators coming out. Everything EOS are doing there. I can keep going for ages. Everything EOS are doing their development courses. It's just like take a breath. Too much stuff, man.
Yeah, this is a kind of a crazy time. You're starting to feel that crypto pump coming back, which I really enjoyed, and I think everyone who's been around here really enjoyed this slow, calm crypto where everyone's just building projects and getting stuff done. But it is kind of cool to see some of the excitement come back. You start seeing people pop up on Twitter again and all that stuff. So it's fun. You know, it's fun. That's part of the fun of riding these cycles up and down is appreciating the craziness and the slowness. But it definitely feels like we got some craziness coming back. And with June 1st, I mean, what good timing. If the crypto market is healthy, hopefully, which it hopefully stays healthy, and EOS announces, who knows what they're going to announce. I mean, we could have a perfect storm for EOS coming up here in June.
Yeah,
so
I literally agree, dude. Yeah, like the market's going crazy right now. Bitcoin's going through the roof. Obviously, we're probably due a pullback at some point. Like, you know, markets don't go up in a straight line or down in a straight line, right? But yeah, man, it feels like everything is coming to one point for June 1st where, you know, we get like announcement, like, you know, the social media DApp, we get like a new exchange maybe, or they might be working with EOS for next, who knows? And then we get a whole like new big dApps coming on board. Whatever it's going to be, it's definitely going to push EOS to the next level. I can't really see EOS not being the same market cap as Ethereum over the next year or two, because ETH is really got no usage. You know, it's really comparison to EOS got no usage. I think it's like 81 million record in a day transactions on EOS now, and Ethereum's like not even in the top 5. So it's all coming together, bro. And yeah, man, I'm just excited for people like you just said at the beginning. We've all been building in 7 o'clock. Thank you, mate. 7 o'clock. It's a laptop. He's my best friend, this guy, man. He sorts me out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like we've all been in this quiet stage where everybody's like, the outside of crypto people have been the naysayers saying, nah, crypto's over, it's going to zero. And now I think this spike in price is kind of just reinforcing that actually this is the beginning of the next bull market. And then all of us who have been building in the quiet time, like you said, it's now going to get more exciting again. All those old faces are going to come back saying, oh yeah, you were right about EOS, weren't you? And then you were right about Bitcoin, because there are a lot of naysayers in the market outside of crypto.
Yeah. Yeah. I've, my friends started to notice Bitcoin again and be like, hey, you still doing Bitcoin stuff? I'm like, yeah, I mean, not that much Bitcoin EOS, but yeah, I'm in the game for a few years now.
I had a friend just say to me, it was like, when it dips, tell me I'm buying some. I'm buying EOS and Bitcoin. So the next drop is the buy-in time, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, the last few months was the buy-in time. It's funny to see people start creeping back, but
yeah, human psychology is funny, man. It's like, it is very, 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 very interesting to see how people, like, obviously we all made the mistakes last year, probably because we all we've kind of been weathered a bit more than the people who didn't buy in and they found about it in the top. So it's very interesting. No one buys on the way down. They buy it when it's high enough for them not to make as much gains as obviously the low end. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, this cycle I've been through, if this ends up being a bull cycle, it'll be my third bull cycle, and it will be, I'll be much more savvy than I was the first and second ones. It's like, you can only learn by experience. People can't really tell you how to work with these things. So
yeah, well, you can only learn from learning from your mistakes, isn't it? Failure is the fuel to success. So whatever.
And one of my funny mistakes, just for people who are wondering what one of my mistakes was I didn't want to trade out of coins back into cash because I didn't want to pay taxes. So I was thinking, okay, I'm just going to, who cares if this appreciated this much? I'm going to just hold it anyway. And because of, 30% taxes. But, take into account that the market can drop enough where that tax savings doesn't matter. So keep, for me in my head this time around, I'll keep in my head that, pulling out to cash is an option where I didn't look at it as one during the last bull market. So anyway, that's
and you're right about even the last bull market, the instruments for selling into cash was still a little bit risky. Like the one before that, selling into Tether was like, what are you doing, man? It's too risky. It had to be on the exchange, right? And now all that Tether stuff's come out. It just goes to show, like, it's whatever that is. We won't go into that because that's just like, it's just news manipulation bullshit, basically. But like you said, like, I think the next bull market is going to be a lot easier. The more options for us to actually make really secure, safe trades into stable coins. Like, we've got all these different USD stable coins now. And I was talking to my mate a second ago. I said, look, dude, like, I don't think in a few years I'll ever want to sell into cash, because cash is trash, in my opinion, after looking at, the last recession and all that kind of stuff, and like how gold's held its value for so long, 5,000 years, gold's got the same purchasing power as today. And what's cash, man? Every fiat currency has gone to zero, every single one. So really, I don't want cash. I never want cash. If I can spend my Bitcoin or spend my EOS easier, then I never want to go out of this world,
Yeah, cash is scary for sure. I mean, it's like it's you almost think of cash as just as risky as crypto. It's starting to be just as risky as crypto when you look at the US dollar and all the hype, the possibility of things there, like, but
super interesting.
It's a really in-depth risk analysis. I mean, I don't know.
It goes so far. Yeah. Like, it's interesting that us in the crypto space are thinking this, though. We're like, I don't want cash. That in 5-10 years time, that could be everyone saying that.
For sure. Well, I mean, they're starting to pull the curtain back on cash, like the dirty secrets behind cash and its true value, and people are starting to realize how much cash is printed to pay for things and how we're taxed through inflation and things like that, and the possibility of hyperinflation with all these examples in the past. I mean, the internet is really freeing up information about cash and the life cycle of cash. I mean, obviously it's very useful and it's been the best technology for thousands of years, but now this possibility that there's something to supplant that technology, all of a sudden cash loses its unique selling proposition. So it's just a matter of how long that kind of monetary revolution takes. It could take 20 years, but the crazy thing is with how quickly, exponentially technology goes. It could take 20 years. It could take a year, like
Yeah, exactly.
crazy things happen with technology, like things get adopted in a heart once they start to hit that parabolic
Once you will understand
adoption curve. Yeah. And, once there's this network effect, if somehow crypto hits a network effect, like people could abandon cash almost overnight, which is a crazy thought, so it could be 20 years, it could be 2 years, so.
It's such an interesting topic, man. I love talking about it because it's like the whole gold debate. It's like sound money, right? Like sound money has to have a way in the research. Well, what I believe is that for money to be money in the first place, it has to have a fixed supply. That's it. It has to have store of value. So at the end of the day, it's sound money. Gold is sound money. Cash is like moved into the light because it's easier to move around globally than gold. It's like gold was good at it's got a certain, what are the properties actually? I know exactly what they are. Yeah, gold's valuable. It's because it's got a unit of account, medium of exchange, portable, durable, divisible, fungible, and store of value. So that's why gold is valuable, right?
Yeah.
Cash in its like fiat form has all of those things, but not store of value. So cash isn't actually money. So then you've got something like Bitcoin or EOS, right? Which has all of those things, but then it's even more portable than cash. Then you're going to be looking at these government currencies and be like, they've been printed from 1965. They've been printed like millions of times over. So if you had $1,000 in 1965, you buy yourself a house. Now it's 300,000. So what is that in percentage terms? 300 times more cash in society than there was in 1965. So it's just a matter of time, man, before cash is done. I can't really see there being a use case for it. It would be gold and Bitcoin, man.
Yeah.
Gold, Bitcoin, and EOS.
Yeah, where cash falls down is its store of value, and where gold falls down is its portability, and it's being used to pay for small things. So, but yeah, that's where Bitcoin steps in. That's where EOS and PIOS and Monero and all these different things step in. And I like the thought of, when I think of cryptocurrency, I really embrace this idea of hundreds or possibly even thousands of currencies, each operating within their own networks. For example, the EOSwriter is looking at having a token for its EOSwriter community. And so every community is in charge of the value of their currency basically being on the utility of it. And so it becomes almost like it brings in some elements of almost a barter system. Like with Bancor is almost letting you barter because they are have the third token where you can take token A, token B, and trade them straight across for each other as if you were bartering those things, but in a new way. And so all of a sudden you can have all these thousands of communities with their own little economic system, but that can interact with each other, and it just explodes the idea of how to exchange value, what money is like.
It really, like, the can of worms opens. Like when you learn about sound money, anyone who, if you understand the value of gold, then why gold's valuable. Because a lot of people look at gold, they're like, it's valuable. But once you really understand why gold's had value for so long, then you realize, oh, that's what real money is. And then that's why Bitcoin's so amazing, and that's why EOS is so crazy amazing, because like the supplies basically comes down to supply. If you can hold the supply rigid, it means fixed supply means stable pricing equals stable society, and that's why the society we have today isn't very stable. It crashes and it burns because the government can basically print more currency. Like, well, America, it's like quantitative easing number 16 or something, like, and in the bailouts it went from like, there's a certain amount of cash, and then it doubled the amount of cash from the last 100 years in one go. It's just like, it's coming, man.
Well, quantitative easing is a serious experiment. Like one of the grandest monetary experiments like in history, where they're basically, have brought the interest rate down near zero. And in places like Japan, they've actually done negative interest rates where you have to pay to save your money. But they've brought the interest rates down to near zero. And now what the Fed is starting to run into is the need to increase interest rates, but like as they try to do it, each time they try to do it, the economy kind of stutters and falters, and they're like, shit, we can't really increase it. So they're trying to figure out how to, play the game to increase the interest rate, but they're having trouble doing that. And so it's
so interesting. If you look at if you look at how the Roman Empire collapsed, that's exactly what America basically in the UK are doing now. They're doing exactly the same thing. They're debasing debasing money and using currency instead. And then eventually you can't control an economy. It has to be free market, because one entity can't decide where the economy goes. Like if you have an economy, it's basically a decentralized millions of people making mini transactions, right? No one can dictate that. No one can say, okay, we're going to set interest rates for this. No one central party can make millions of decisions in an open market, which make the pricing a certain price. They make this certain that. They make the whole market is just open to everybody's opinion. So it's the whole way it goes. Like that's why EOS is so cool as well, because it's like, yeah, we can dictate it, but it's like we can have we know there's certain rules in the blockchain, so we can say there's going to be this much inflation. It's going to go back to the people, not just like inflate and then quantitative ease and then give it to banks. Like what? Because quantitative ease is just printing more money. They make it all this fancy word. Oh, we're going to do quantitative easing to save the economy. Now what you're going to do is we're going to have this amount of cash and you're going to double it, and then you're going to pay banks on that. So everybody else gets half poorer. Everybody else, and it won't hit you straight away. It will hit you in 15 years when you don't expect it, and then everything will crash and you'll lose your pension.
Yeah, there's a direct correlation between, people don't understand that increasing money supply is taxing. You're not having to pay, so it doesn't hurt as much right off the rip, but it's the same exact effect. And to kind of riff on your point there about a central structure like the Fed manipulating the money supply or fixing the economy. The tough part about that is that these systems are so complex. I mean, I'm an economist by trade, and a recovering economist actually, because you kind of realize at some point that like, holy shit, these long equations, all this calculus, all this stuff doesn't predict anything. I mean, really, it kind of can sometimes go back and explain stuff, but as far as like predicting or like being able to do very much with all this math, it doesn't work. It's crazy that I put so much time into learning it.
Yeah.
Before realizing that it's almost like a
waste.
Yeah, it's almost like a pseudoscience. So it's fun to see how the money moves around, but as far as like putting hard math to this, it's not hard math. It's unpredictable. So anyway, getting to the point here is that when you have one central entity that's doing all this and trying to predict something that is so infinitely complex as an economy with a global economy, almost billions of people moving money around, like there's not necessarily a good way to predict something that complex. The only way that I see is some sort of smaller free markets that kind of interact, self-correct, are constantly taking this moving complexity into account and just adjusting for it over time. These big it's just, you'd have to be omnipresent, you have to be some sort of godlike figure to be able to really take all these complexities into account and run the Fed correctly. So it's just,
well, it's impossible because you can't do it. It's just, no one human being or a group of human beings can foresee that many different things, variables in an economy. It's like you should check out this guy called Mike Maloney. I know we're going down the kind of the gold rabbit hole and the money rabbit hole, but it's so interesting because it all links back to Bitcoin, especially definitely blockchain. But yeah, check out Mike Maloney. Have you heard of the guy?
I haven't.
You haven't? Oh, you got to check him out. He does like these really good YouTube videos talking about the Diocletian War and how like all of these, basically Winston Churchill has that quote, doesn't he? The longer you look into the past, the clearer you can see the future. Mm-hmm. And it's actually mental how many times human beings through greed and fear have created the same cycles in monetary policy. It just happens over and over again. And it always starts with centralized governments thinking that they know better than the free market. That's how it always ends. Like the Egyptians, they went down because they started trying to manipulate the gold, and then there was never a price of gold before. I think it's lead and copper. And then what they did is they swapped the gold coins for the lead and copper, and then that's when gold started getting priced. Okay. And then when there was a price of gold and everyone had this like non-real, not the actual money, then you started seeing these problems with like unstable pricing, and then you saw problems with like bubbles within like, you know, the price of this house is this much copper, but how much is it in gold? Because we need to weigh it. So it just makes the economy like infinitely more difficult to create a price with a buyer and a seller. So it's really interesting, man. Definitely check out Mike Maloney. You go down the rabbit hole with him, and everything should be priced in Bitcoin, man. Because if Bitcoin's 21 million Bitcoin or EOS, let's say that's because, well, the thing about Bitcoin, it's so fixed, it's never going to change. EOS can change. So that's not, EOS has its own place, but if everything was priced in Bitcoin, it would cost the same amount of Bitcoin in America for a loaf of bread than in China. Imagine how mental that would make the economy so much more easy. Mm-hmm. And then we wouldn't even need the Forex, because when we came off the gold standard in, you know, Nixon, wasn't it? When we came off from the gold standard in 1971, there was no such thing as the Forex because nothing floated. It was just gold. And we know how much gold there is, so everything's priced in gold. It's easy. So it's so interesting, man. I don't know. Obviously, you said you're an economist, so you probably know all about this. But I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people who actually have no idea what real money is. Even that guy Kevin O'Leary on that CNBC. He's like, why would I put real money into Bitcoin? It's like, well, it's not. I was like, well, cash. His whole argument was that cash is his cash position is huge. He wants to hold cash. He gets 2.1% on cash. You're getting 2.1% on paper and a belief system. The only thing keeping the US dollar alive is the belief system and a few things, properties, which make it easy to do trade, but it's not store of value, so it's not money. So you're saying you're not going to buy Bitcoin, which has a fixed supply. I know it's a different technology, so it's like maybe people see it's more abstract, but fundamentally, who was that guy? There's a Greek leader, I think it's called Xerxes or something, I don't know. He wrote a book called The Book of Edict of Prices, and basically the conclusion is if you have a fixed supply of any money, you have fixed prices. That's it. So cash is not money. But yeah, we're going down that rabbit hole. You should definitely check out Mike Maloney, bro.
I wrote it down, Mike Maloney. Yeah, and you know, to bring that kind of full circle to EOS, I think that is one of the really big draws for me towards EOS is this ability, because it's such a complex system, especially with new technology. There's so many changes that are coming in the future. This ability to adapt quickly, even to split off into sister chains, side chains, whatever needs to happen for the free market just to kind of run wild with this technology and push it forward, I think is one of the biggest benefits of, is why I'm so, passionate about EOS, because even when you look at something like ETH, even though it's one of my favorite technologies, it's, brought me up in the game of smart contracts. That's part of the place I learned about all this was when ETH came out. So there's a place in my heart for it, but it sucks that it moves so slow. It's just this one monolith with all these people trying to, fix it. Whereas you bring something like EOS where the main chain, as they like to call it, could fail and it would probably be just fine. Like you're going to lose, like it's going to fragment the community, but the main chain could literally fail. It could, everyone could, thousands of people could get together, collude, and try to steal the main chain. And the community could just leave. It could start a sister chain and it would just keep surviving and probably be a little bit stronger, fixing whatever happened to make the main chain fail. So
open source code, man.
Yeah, this open source ability to just keep going and let the free markets fix and decide is my favorite thing, man. That's so cool.
It's so cool, man. Yeah, it's like the economy today is so untransparent. It's impossible to even catch people out for doing wrongdoing because you have to go and investigate their specific database in their company. What have you been doing on your database? But on a public blockchain, it's so transparent. You can see everything, the whole movement of money and whatever it is, whatever token it is, just makes like the whole, I think innovation is just making things more efficient, right? So this is the next innovation is just this massively more massively more transparent system where we can then actually start going, okay, that works, that's wrong, and then we can choose what the inflation rate is, build economic models into games and stuff like that, like the whole gaming space. Let's talk about gaming, bro. I don't want to like change the idea, but we said last time we were going to talk about gaming, but yeah, man, like games today, like I was talking to Douglas Horn actually, and he's actually he's an awesome guy, and he was telling me that they're developing a game called like Dragon Slayer or something, and they got devs from like Disney and all these great places, and I don't think we've seen a good game on blockchain yet at all. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say that there aren't great EOS games already, but let's be realistic here. Like they're not actually good. They're amazing because it's a new technology, but it's going to be like when you can build an economy which is using the best properties of Bitcoin, which is the best properties of value of gold. It all links back to like gold, Bitcoin, and then these chains, because then you can create these really valuable things within games, man. Like, and the more demand there is in the game, the more people who play the game, the more demand for the item. It's a unique item, and then you can cross games into each other. It's like EOS is definitely going to be that place for games, in my opinion, that all of the really cool games are going to be built on a blockchain, which is free. Because think about it, if you have to pay every single time you buy a character, or you have to pay every single time, like Ethereum, pay for every transaction, just makes it really, it makes it boring, makes it annoying. But with EOS, it's like, EOS is such a big deal. Obviously, we know that because we're both EOS guys, but the way you can just do transactions all the time without it actually being a feeless transaction, that's such a big deal for gaming, in my opinion.
What with Douglas Horn, was he that game they're talking about building on Telus or on EOS? On the EOS blockchain?
That's a good point. I think, well, they were wearing EOS tops, but it was EOS.io, so probably I think it's gonna run on Telus.
Mm-hmm. I know Douglas Horn and Good Blocker, big Telus advocates.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fantastic. You know, imagine the shift if something like Telus were to come out with just this because the users don't care what blockchain it's on. So imagine Telus comes out with this massively adopted, high level game that just millions of people are playing, and they're playing on the Telus blockchain. Like that's kind of the power of EOS.io, is that it is technology for it doesn't matter. It's open source technology
technology first.
Yeah. Tech first, UX first, and all these experiments running side by side, and we'll see which one wins. I mean, that's amazing.
And the integration between Telus and EOS.io is going to be so easy as well, especially with Bancor, and it's on Nudex now. Telus is on Nudex, but I don't really know much about Telus, to be honest. But all I know is if it's EOS.io, it's going to do well.
Yeah. Because Telus is a lot, I mean, really similar to EOS. It's got some of the main differences are
Douglas Horn will disagree. I remember I said that on the podcast. He was like, "No, we're not. We're completely different." Well, but obviously, like they're the same code, obviously. But
yeah, they're built. They're built off the same base. But yeah, they want it. I mean, clearly they're enough different to stand apart. One of the things that the worker proposal system is cracking on Telus right now, and they're getting some cool things funded. So the governance is much different too. But anyway, gaming. One of my favorites is Mythical, because because they came from a serious gaming background, because they're the Mythical team is from World of Warcraft and Call of Duty, so they know what's up as far as gaming goes. And if you've seen the Blancos gameplay, it looks
unreal.
It's unreal. It's amazing. So that'll be a really interesting one. They're also, not only are they bringing in NFTs, but they're bringing in like these gaming cards and kind of that Skylanders approach, where you have real world physical items, in world game items, and then adding NFTs to it. That's an interesting one. I just don't know how sticky the actual gameplay is. I haven't played it yet. So
it's gonna it's like and also being able to lease your items. So I've been talking to the Checks team, And like the idea, right, you can play loads of games, you can create loads of items within your inventory. All of those items are they can go across into other games, as long as they're compatible. So say you have like Fortnite, and then you have Call of Duty. You could start using the items from the Fortnite game in the Call of Duty game, and then you can lease them across, make a return from your items you've made through your hard work. And then the next step, I think, is Google Stadia is coming out soon in June, right? I don't know if you've heard of it.
Say that again. Google Stadia?
Google Stadia. Yeah, yeah. And this is super crazy, right? So it's kind of like, feels like they're essentially, it kind of feels like they're a centralized server, cloud serving blockchain in a way. Obviously they don't use a blockchain, but what they're going to do is, right, so when you go on YouTube and there's someone playing a game, you can actually start playing the game with them, right? And all you need is your Xbox controller, your PS4 controller, and the Google servers will run the game for you. You're just going to play it on your screen. So you can play it on your phone, you can play it on you can play all the best games on mobile, on your tablet, on your laptop, but you're not actually running the game at your computer. They're running on the Google Cloud. So this links into gaming as well. It means that you won't need to have a powerful computer to play games if you're using the Google system, but then you could kind of leverage that on a blockchain. So it could actually work with Google. I know it sounds like it's counterintuitive because one's centralized and one's not, but if you had like the ability to play your game on Google Stadia, which is basically, I've really explained this badly. It's going to be cloud. It's going to be cloud service for gaming. So you used to download your music. Now you stream it. It's going to be streaming for gaming. So you're going to stream the game. Yeah. So you're going to have Assassin's Creed, and you're going to stream your gameplay on your Google Stadia account, and you'll pay a monthly fee. Okay. So I'm thinking like in the future, if you had a blockchain like EOS integrated into that game, doesn't matter that it's being run. Doesn't matter that Google's running it. But you could have the integration of blockchain, so you could play any high-level game with the power of the Google servers, but then have the blockchain running the items. Mm-hmm. So then you've got this mental kind of economy of like really fast, amazing games, but with the NFTs behind it. That's what you might see. Maybe some games won't be built from scratch on the blockchain. There'll be normal games, but they'll have the blockchain behind it, and they'll have their own way of running it. So that's what I know. You should check out Google Stadia.
Yeah, that's killer.
And any device, man, you could just have your phone. So you got your phone, got your PlayStation controller. You can just play all the best games because they're running it on their servers.
That's wild. Well, yeah, I mean, imagine a game like Red Dead Redemption with the gold the gold supply limited and tied to EOS or tied to the EOS blockchain.
So like prospectors.
Yeah, like prospectors. All of a sudden, people are already putting an insane amount of time and effort into playing these games. All of a sudden, you tie it to a real resource like EOS, and people might. That's like the inflection point where people go into a video game and never come back. You know,
like it's like the real life Tron.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm not like an advocate of, but this is just, if you really think about the logical steps that are happening, like we're very close to, and then throw VR goggles on, and we're very close to just this huge shift where people, like I said, go into video games and just rarely come back. They're coming back to like feed themselves.
They're making a good living out of it as well.
Yeah, and so it's like, gaming you start going down the gaming rabbit hole with blockchain money and virtual reality, and it's like, okay, so
because like we've just said, we've like come to the conclusion that now we can have virtual items which are as real items. So Bitcoin is as real as gold, but it's not real because it's not, you can't touch it, right? But actually the blockchain allows those items, if you're connected enough to the internet, it allows those items to be real to you. It's like a real thing. So that means that all games, the people who play those games the most, who are the top league, the very, very top of it, they're going to be really, really well off, because all that work they've done in their game, which they love doing, is going to be as valuable as, and that's when the transition between virtual and non-virtual coincide. And then people are going to start like showing you their virtual sword on the wall, and like, there's the only one in the world, man, that sword. And like, to people like my dad are like, the hell's going on here? Like, that's not real. Like,
Yeah.
what is this? But the future, we're kind of in the middle, aren't we? Me and you, like
Yeah.
we're in the middle between the old and the new, which I
Mhm.
think is I'm very happy that. Well, the thing is, I don't want to say that all old people don't get it, because look at Mike Novogratz. Like, I'm not saying he's old anyway. If he's watching this, like,
No,
yeah,
he's a
that
wrestler,
old,
man. You don't want to mess with him.
yeah, that old duffer, you know. No, I'm
Yeah.
joking. But he gets it. It's so interesting, man. Like the whole. This is why I'm into blockchain, man. The moment I even learned about Ethereum, well, I learned about Bitcoin and Steam it, and then
Mhm.
Ethereum, and it's just boom. It's just going to change everything. I think we have no idea what's going to happen, man, and we're on the forefront of EOS IO. So
Yeah.
exciting, man. It's
Yeah.
making me
Yeah.
FOMO. I want to go buy some more EOS right now.
I know. I'm gonna go. I've been thinking about picking up like a second job to just put money into EOS, just
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting time. Um, the EOS Writer. Let's talk about the EOS Writer a little bit, because that's
Yeah,
a
sure.
cool project. Me and you have come together. Kenny pulled a lot of us together into the EOS Writer project, and it's been picking up steam and going cool.
Mm.
What's your, why don't you give a little bit of description of what's going on with EOS Writer?
Yeah, man. So EOS, well, the way I see it is like, it's kind of like a hub for EOS content, obviously. Everyone can come there. At the moment, we've got like, I think it's about 4 senior writers. We've got 2 videos. Me and you do the videos. And then also Kenny is thinking about, I don't know how much we should talk about this, but I don't know. We're trying to build like some sort of token where actually anyone can publish, and then anyone can make the token, I don't know what it we called yet, the EOS Writer token. And then it kind of feels like it's going to be more of like an open source, maybe a little bit. Obviously, there's going to be owners, but technically, like, you could maybe open source the actual content on it, and everybody get rewarded in tokens. But it's awesome, man. I think Kenny got hold of me. I don't know. I've been doing videos for those guys for a while. I've done we got a whole YouTube channel. Definitely check if you haven't already checked it out. Check out the YouTube channel, because I've done probably, me and you obviously now Brandon's in it, but we've probably done about 50 videos on there, all of different interviews. And yeah, the way I describe it is just a hub for EOS content. Check it out. We're all doing our thing, and then hopefully, it's kind of inspired by Sebastian van der Lans. I've been talking to him recently. He's an awesome guy, and like, we're time stamping the EOS content on we're time stamping the EOS. Can't speak. We're time stamping EOS Writer content on the EOS blockchain, right? So all of the content's like getting locked down by the blockchain. But in the future, if everybody could start time stamping their content on the EOS Writer platform, maybe open it up a little bit, because at the moment it's quite like, it's just the people who are involved are getting the kind of putting the content up. But we'll see what happens. Like, obviously, me and Kenny talk about it all the time, but Kenny's he's the boss, so
Yeah, it's it's a killer idea. I mean, it's like a type of an EOS network type of where all this information, a hub is a good way to explain it. And the cool thing about like a network of information, like one of the things that like you look at TV networks and things, is they are putting out what information they think is quality. A lot of times, TVs come to the point where they have a narrative that they're pushing, but I think that there's this opportunity to have like a network or a hub of information that is just filtering for the most quality content. And I think that's part of what the longer term vision of EOS Writer is, a hub that kind of filters all the best news of the day into one spot.
And not like politically or like, agenda driven. It's not like we're saying, no, we're not going to post that. With the token metrics behind it, could be different, that everybody votes on whether they think it's good content or not.
Exactly. And that's one of the, I did Steam it for a long time, and that was one of the when Ned would talk about Steam it, well, Ned, well, we won't get into Ned, but anyway, when he talked,
leave Ned out of here, mate.
When Dan would talk about Steam it, kind of the original vision of Steam it for Dan was a site that filtered the best content to the top through incentives. And that didn't end up working with Steam it for a lot of reasons. But that vision's still out there. There's still a lot of people working on trying to solve that problem. And that's going to be interesting in the history of news and the history of blockchain and everything, is how this problem someday gets solved, where the best content actually makes it to the top naturally through some sort of really well-placed incentives. So Yeah, the EOS
I
Strider
talk to my
challenge.
dad about this
Yeah.
a lot. I'll carry on, but I talk because
Yeah.
he's like really, like a bit worried, like all this fake news. But carry on what you were saying. I'll chime in a minute.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, and I think fake news has come to the pendulum has swung as far as it can in the fake news direction, and I think that I don't see it being able to get worse. I don't think people are stupid enough for it to get any worse. I think that like as humans, we
Famous
see,
last words, bro.
yeah, but
Everyone's like,
yeah, but as humans, even like the masses kind of now are aware of the fact that like, oh, like not everything I hear on the news is true. I have to like mentally vet this a little bit. So I think that like just how in the dark people were for it to be able to get this far, I think we've gone kind of as far as we can. A good,
really good point.
Yeah, off the rip, off the top of my head, like you think about advertising, the evolution advertising's had back in the day. It was like Timex had this commercial where Timex was this unbreakable watch. Their thing was it keeps on ticking, and they had this dude like jump off a cliff like into the ocean, smack the watch, and then they're like Timex keeps on ticking. And when that first stuff first started coming out, people thought everything they saw on TV was real.
Yeah,
And
that's
so,
it.
like, so this advertising worked like in these ways that you could do crazy stuff with kind of some movie magic, and everyone would think it was real. They didn't realize that it could be faked yet. And then when people started to realize, then they changed how they had to advertise, And I think that with fake news, we just kind of have had that moment where everyone thought that, oh, it's on the news. These guys are like vetting it. It's going to be real. Well, turns out that was BS. And I think people realize that. We can't go any further down the BS road, I don't think. So
the points you just make, like it stems so far. Because like with my dad, right, he pretty much watches BBC News. And for his growing up, that's always been the go-to. And you always believe what the BBC say, right? Because the BBC they're in the interest of the people. But like it goes so far, because the incentives of the whole way the media is structured is all incentivized by either money or politics, right? That's the two. Like Fox News is money, BBC is probably more political because left or right wing, whatever you want to look at it. So like, yeah, EOS Writer are embarking on trying to make a system which completely isn't incentivized by those two things. It's only incentivized by everyone's opinion on what the content is. So and then you look at like Julian Assange getting thrown into jail by government because he's getting all this information, what they're doing. So like, yeah, man, like I as you were talking, I was just like, my head was just like spinning with so much like ideas, because that is such a massive deal. Like I said, my dad, he watches a lot of news, and I think we're getting to the point now where intelligence isn't information, it's the intelligence of someone is actually knowing which information to take on board, and actually you need to spot the BS more these days, because if you can go on any website and read it and be like, oh yeah, cool, I know that now. But actually the intelligence side is someone who says that doesn't sound right. It's like a puzzle now. You have to look at all the different information and just see what makes the most sense. And I think it's quite dangerous, because a lot of people, I'm not saying they don't have the capacity to do that, but like a lot of people don't. They're a little bit more manipulatable. So you're seeing like all these really weird rational thinkers, left or right, they get completely encaved in their YouTube world of this tiny little avenue, and it's like, it's really dangerous, man. Like then you look at things happening. So if we can take the big point, trying to put it into one here, but if we can take the incentives of the dollar or the pound, the money, and the political side of it, and take all that shit away and then make it so the incentives are a whole different system, which is being built around a token or something like that, which is like rewards you for good content, or everybody rewards you. You could see a much more like just a generally like more harmonious world, hopefully. It's like we are embarking on a massive thing, because it's happened all the way through human history. It's been like propaganda. Like the Second World War happened probably because, what's interesting now, I won't go into that because I know quite a lot about that. I did some research, but like obviously a lot of propaganda was involved, because we couldn't communicate with Germany. The people couldn't communicate with each other. So that was it goes so far. I could just ramble for ages about it. Yeah. It's so interesting, man.
Well, I think that point that you make about intelligence and what it means now as to what it meant in the past actually kind of fits, is a really interesting piece of that puzzle, because you think about intelligence now. There's all the information in the world is completely accessible. So just knowing shit doesn't make you smart anymore.
Exactly.
Now, being able to ask the right questions is what makes you smart. So like everything's available. Now, what questions do you ask? What are you, how are you putting the puzzle together, as you said?
Sorry to interrupt to this, but I got one more thing to say. So it's like this, right? So I know a lot about nutrition. I did like a whole nutrition thing. And like, this is a really, really important thing, because like you go on Google, right? And you put in health benefits of watermelon or something, right? And you'll get like 50 million results for the health benefits of watermelon. And then you'll write something like health problems with eating watermelon. And then you'll get 10 million. So there's 50 million on this side which says it's good for you. There's 10 million which says it's bad for you. But if you just read the first one of each one, you will literally think that watermelon is bad for you or good for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you can do this with so many different foods. It's really actually mental. Like, say you put in something like a really healthy food, like, goji berries had a big craze. Everyone's buying goji berries. You type in health benefits of goji berries and you'll get that for days. It'd be the best thing for you in the world. But then you type in health side effects of goji berries and you have that for days as well. But the thing is, when you look at actually how many results there are, there's not as many results for the bad, but there's always going to be one. It's always going to be one. Do you know what I mean? There's always one article saying it's shit for you. It's really bad for you. And like, you're getting these really weird things where people are actually doing things which they think are good for them, but they're not. But the information's all out. That's what I see anyway. It's a really interesting thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. And so now to tie that in with what we were talking about earlier with advertising and people's mind shifting, and then news and people's mind shifting, just information in general. I think that people realizing that anything that you already think that you research on the internet, you're just going to reinforce that. So, so I think that is a mental shift that might start to happen at some point too. It's like that just because the information is out there doesn't mean it's true in general. And just because you think something and you can support it doesn't mean that it's true in general. In the same way that when you used to see things on TV, you thought they were true, doesn't mean they're true. Like, there might be a bigger shift coming there too. People reevaluating what intelligence actually is having.
It's like eggs.
The right, like eggs.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know why, but it's like eggs, right? My mom was always told when she was growing up, eggs are bad for you. They higher your cholesterol, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I look online, it's like eggs are really good for you because that cholesterol is good cholesterol. But all the information from the 60s, or not the 60s, but all of that old information is still on the internet. So if you type it in and get a keyword which says eggs are bad for you, you're still going to get that same info from 15 years ago. You can still end up reading content which is telling you that eggs are bad for you, which we kind of know they're not bad for you anymore because the science has got better. But my mum will still not eat eggs because she'll type in eggs give you high cholesterol, which is bad for you, and she'll get that article from 10 years ago and won't, you know what I mean? Like and then we'll still reinforce her own belief systems. So it's really, really getting to a point now where we got to like take a back step and actually, we need AI, bro. We need plugged in AI because we live in an AI world. We need something which is helping us sift through all the fucking shit. Do you know what I mean? It's there's so much crap out there, man. On this the World Wide Web, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm an egg fan. As you know, last time we were on the show, my ducks flew across the street and I had to run out into the road and save them. But I've got Muscovy ducks and I've got Japanese quail, and they lay giant eggs.
I thought you got assassinated by a duck, man. It would have been the first time in history, man.
It came back in. I was all covered in dirt. But yeah, anyway, so taking this, these thinking processes and this information, where do you think that maybe people like you and I, or the crypto community, where do you think that we might fall short in, or we might have ideas that need to be challenged?
It's a massive question, bro. Like, because obviously in the time we're in, well, let me think about that a second. Because think about it, right? When our parents knew that they were right about something when they were young, now they're wrong about the internet. Now they're wrong about eggs. Now they're wrong about these things. So there's a really good book. I actually said it last time. It's by Bill Buckley. No, sorry, it's by
The End of Television? Is that what it's
End
called?
of Television, yeah, that's by George Gliedner.
Oh,
But
okay.
there's I think it's Bill Buckley, and he talks about original sin, and it's about
Okay.
how anything good, right, which happens at the time, because the internet was going to be this amazing thing, it was going to decentralize the and anything which has a profound positive effect, it's like called original sin. So there's always something which it brings with it, drags the cat in with it, which then, like Facebook now, is a horrible data center which takes all of our information. So it's like that, right? Obviously, the blockchain right now, it feels like it's the biggest, most amazing thing, and there's so much potential there. And there is more potential than the internet to decentralize and that kind of great stuff, but we don't know what it's going to drag on with it. So it's a really interesting thing to think about, because think about all the people who, it's got a message, one sec. Think about all the people who were right in their time, but they were wrong, but now they're dead or something, you know? Think about all the people 100 years ago. The longer you bring the time scale back, people used to blimmin' think that people, you know what I mean? Like if you go really far back to like the Egyptian times, they thought that there was blimmin' lions with bird heads on them as gods. But we kind of know that that's not real anymore. There's probably not gods, but they thought that that was what their reality was. So what's our reality going to be in the future? I don't know. I don't know, bro. I don't know what it's going to hold, but hopefully we can get some sort of AI which is going to help us. I don't know, man. We need Elon Musk, bro. What's he doing?
Yeah.
Come on. He needs to hurry up.
Well, we'll get into the Neuralink here in a second. But, when you said about the internet and now we have Facebook, one of the concepts that we can think about for blockchain is, okay, we put all of this like fully traceable, fully auditable information on the internet, or excuse me, online, and we put it into space, and we make all this stuff so it basically can never disappear. Now, let's say that we were like required to have full unique ID and only use a government blockchain, and every transaction, every movement, every place we go is recorded into this database. And we basically have walked ourselves into far more tracking and control. And we could even be at that point, if it's an auditable blockchain, our identities could be, managed. They could be blacklisted. They could be, the money could be, crypto could be drained out of your account. It could give full, I'm just thinking of a dystopian,
Yeah, I understand. I get where you're going with
future. But okay, everything's on the blockchain, but that blockchain's controlled, and your only way to interact with the world is through this one dominant blockchain. But it's fully controlled, and you can be just basically, erased out of society virtually. So that's a fun thought.
Like, bro, we could erase that as society virtually.
Yeah.
And now virtual stuff's exactly the same as real stuff. So we could literally get like, I know, bro. Yeah. Like it's like China, they've got all these WeChat and all this crap where the government have a complete control over the people. I had a trail of thought, but I forgot it. But carry on with something you were saying. I just try to think of, because we do get, historically people are always wrong. And so I'm wondering, I just try to look at the ways that we may be miscalculating. But there's also the thought, the big cool push with crypto is that we are trying to keep it so decentralized, especially things like EOS, where if someone controls a chain, then there's breaking off into sister chains all over the place. So, that's a long shot for someone to be able to put this genie into the bottle per se. But it's good to always think about things like that and keep that conversation going. I'm just trying to think of something I was going to say. We can cut this out 1 minute.
Yeah.
I had a really awesome thing to say. You were saying something what were you saying before? It was really interesting. About,
Neuralink. We're talking about the Neuralink, and
just
then
after that, you were saying like,
we were talking about the Neuralink, and then I started going down the rabbit hole of a dystopian future where basically the government controls all blockchain, and we can never erase anything that we've done.
It's like, yeah, man, it's super. So like the decisions, right? So this is really interesting. I can't remember who I learned this off or read about it, but it says how like, the future is created by the decisions we make. So we're in the blockchain space, and every single decision we're making is really going to affect the future of what we have. Because think about it this way, like say something like the way the infrastructure of the internet was built was through people's decisions. And the reason we went down that rabbit hole of making the internet work in that specific way was because enough people got on board with it to build that architecture. But think about it, there could have been millions of different ways we could have built a distributed internet. Like, it's unlimited. Like, if you go anywhere else in the universe, it's never going to be the same. It's always going to be different, right? So like the point is I'm trying to make is like, we need to decide whether we go down that rabbit hole. And it's probably not me or you right now. It's probably like Brendan Bloom or Dan Laramers or these people. And we need to know which people to follow. Because I had another person who said to me, it's like, well, why doesn't Dan Larimer just sit on a beach? Like, he's got $300 million. I was like, well, the thing is about, he's not incentivized by that. So we're trying to follow someone who's not incentivized by just making money and pissing it up the wall when he gets old, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like the decisions we're making, and the decision we're making is like, we need to really put this forward, that we need to be decentralized, because this horrible China WeChat system, which they live in, is communism, bro. And it doesn't work. Obviously it works great on paper, whatever, but like, it's such a broad topic. But I'm just saying the decisions we make are what we're going to build. Because EOS, DPoS, they could have been another system. Could have been Holochain, or it could have been this, it could have been that. But if enough people get on board with that, then it's the network effect, and then that will be the future. So hopefully there's enough people who see the light with EOS, man.
Yeah. Well, and on top of the technology is great, but having the leadership of Dan, I think for me is a really important aspect of it, because like just listening to him since BitShares kind of pontificate about freedom and sovereignty and like what it means to be a human. And like, we are individual humans, like the space in our mind is our own, like the space around us, like it's important to take ownership over our beings. And a lot of people don't care or even realize that that's a thing, but it is like, and so for the people who like understand that and want that, the fact that Dan is so thoughtful in that area, and the fact that he is so conscious of that in all of the decisions he makes around blockchain, makes me feel confident in actually following a leader. And I think that people are like, oh, well, in a decentralized thing, you don't want leaders. Well, to me, that's kind of, that's not true. In a decentralized thing, you want to be able to choose your leaders. Like, as humans, leaders are a part of how we operate. Sports teams have a quarterback, sports teams have a center midfielder, sports teams have a captain, because though everyone is, kind of fighting on their own, they also want to look somewhere for leadership. I mean, that's a natural part of society. So I like strong leadership, but I don't like forced leadership. Leaders should earn their way to the top in a free market and be such badasses that people want to be around them. And so, anyway.
It's amazing, man. Yeah. It's like, maybe blockchain right, isn't the idea of we want a blockchain. Maybe blockchain is actually stemmed through our human emotions, because we feel that we don't want to be controlled. So this is it's obvious. It doesn't really seem obvious at the time. It's like, but decentralization seems really cool. But yeah, like you said about like our spirit, we're human beings. We're trying to build a technology which works with spirit. You know what I mean? It's like human beings and technology working together, because we're still human beings. Like, it's not all just going to be AI. Mm-hmm. We build AI because we're human beings. Like, if you were a different being, if you weren't a human being, you wouldn't build AI which would have the same thought process as a human being. It would be for you. It's like, so we're building all this technology for us. So blockchain is just a manifestation of our actual human emotions. We're like, we don't want to be controlled anymore. We want decentralized. So Dan Larimer is building something from that's why it's such a great guy to follow, because he's building it for the right reasons.
Yeah. He's around the human perspective, around the human experience. I mean, yeah, when you zoom out a little bit, that's pretty cool to zoom out a little bit and be like, yeah, we're building this as people to make our life as people better. We're not building this as a means to an end just to build technology or just to fix money. It's like, no, this is
just to make money.
Yeah, this is about.
We're not Jordan Belfort. Like, we're just here to make some fucking money, man.
Yeah.
We're trying to do something else. Like,
yeah, for sure. So I like, well, on the EOS podcast, we can swear. On the EOS Writer podcast, I'm not sure. We should check into our branding for that. This is actually the EOS Writer podcast. Is where no, I don't think I'm just playing around. It doesn't
if
matter.
Anyone's still watching here, we deserve a blooper at least anyway, man. And we've been going an hour at least.
Yeah, for sure. We can swear. The EOS podcast, I've been getting my tagline down. And the EOS podcast, the first podcast in EOS history. So that is the tagline that I'm starting to go with. The EOS podcast, the first podcast in EOS history, and is now partnered with
the Joe Rogan of EOS, bro.
Yeah, the Joe Rogan of EOS. I like that one too. I hope that one gets out there because I'm a big fan of Joe. He got me into all kinds of interesting rabbit holes, including.
Imagine Dan going on there, man. Imagine Brandon Bloomer or Dan going on there. It has to happen, man.
I've tweeted about that a couple times. I've hit up Joe about that a few times. Like I've been hitting that from both angles. I've sent Joe Rogan emails. They've
got to get him. They got to get him. It's like some people you see going on that show, you just think you don't know anything, man, about what the future is going to look like. You know nothing. Dude. Like
they had the guy
obviously
from.
They get great people as well. I'm not saying, but I'm saying some people. Like you're like, what, man? You don't know.
They had the guy from Minds on there, the CEO from Minds, and
really?
And I listened to that podcast. It's like, dude, and then I sent Joe Rogan a message again after that one. I was like, dude, you should have had me on the show instead of that dude. That guy like literally had almost zero, like such little vision. It was like, how's this guy? Anyway, but he needs Dan Larimer on there. That would be just.
Dude, yeah. I think actually probably Brendan Bloom would be better. I don't know why, because Dan Larimer's quite technical, but I think Brendan could like put it into a package which that kind of audience could grasp. So I think Dan would be like, so like we need to have this inflation. It would be like go DPoS on them, and then they'll be like, what, man? But I think Brendan's good at like these quotes which have like a meaning, but they're not technical. You know, Dan can do it as well. I'm not trying to hate on Dan here, man. Dan's the boy. If he's watching this, you're a legend, mate. But like, do you know what I mean?
I guess if you're gonna have someone go talk and be the face of a $1 billion operation, that Brandon is a little bit more polished. I think that Dan. I like Dan's.
We got to work them in with Dan. We got to like push like cushion them first with Brendan, then get Dan in there with the proper full on anarchism.
Yeah, for sure.
I hate the government. Like all this.
For sure, for sure. Well, Joe Rogan, if you're listening, bring Brendan Bloomer on the show, then bring Dan on the show, then bring me and Max on the show. That's a lot. That's the only logical progression. Yeah.
We're like the comedians. We can just make the jokes on the side because I would like Joe Rogan is a comedian obviously, but his show is actually, it's a really good example of like how when you have someone who has the right intentions and they build a platform, they can create something which is so positive. And like obviously YouTube, it's going to be so cool when we see a platform. So think about it this way, right? Everybody is their own platform, right? So instead of having everyone put your content onto YouTube, everybody is their own platform and everyone has their online image, their secure online image of themselves, right? And then you could have like all the content you create, you put it on your version of YouTube, which is secure and it's open to everybody. Then you can have this like mental like world of just a decentralized opinions, and then have maybe a voting structure on a chain which puts everyone's opinions in rank and stuff like that. Boom, man, it's going to be so cool because YouTube just is like, it's weird how I think we'll look back at it and think, why did we put all of our information on there, on that? Why don't we just have like MEOS is probably going to be like the secure version of yourself online, but it won't feel like your social media. It'll just be you. It's just going to be your virtual self. It's not going to be like, oh, I'm logging into Facebook. It's like, no, I'm logging into myself. You know what I mean? My secure version. No one else got access to this than me. That's what I see anyway. I think that you agree, right?
Yeah. I have some friends who aren't interested in blockchain, but they were talking about, so my one buddy has a morning routine, and on his drive to work, he records a short video once a week for his daughters, and he just tells them some things, and then he uploads it to Vimeo, which is basically like YouTube, and it's just there kind of as a time capsule for his daughters in the future someday. So I was like, man, that's a fucking cool idea.
That is awesome.
But then instantly my blockchain and my questioning mind goes, yeah, dude, that's a cool idea. But what happens 10 years from now when Vimeo disappears and that database with your 10 years of work on it is gone and your daughters have nothing? So anyway,
Exactly.
so I start thinking, okay, IPFS, Interplanetary File System. Start thinking blockchain. I start thinking down that road. And I think what you're saying there with MEOS is a great example of that kind of coming bigger picture, where you have this identity of yourself. It could be recordings of you, your social media presence, all these things kind of black boxed and packaged. And you have a version of yourself that's safe and secure, but stored and IPFS and on the blockchain forever.
Yeah. And everyone's getting worried about branding. It's like, oh, what's it going to be called? Like, at the end of the day, no one's going to give a shit what it's called if it works and it's like, it is you online. If it's secure enough and it is you online, you're not going to call your online self, oh, I use Fire. Do you use Fire? It's like, what do you mean? Do you use Fire? It's me. It's probably, it'd be better if it didn't even have a name. It was just like, it was my old, I can call it what I want. It's just my virtual self. MEOS, I can call it whatever I want. Instead of having like, you're logging in, you're not logging in anymore. It's you. It's so interesting, man. That's what I think anyway. Like, it's going to be your virtual self, and everybody's going to have their own standpoint and own way to project their thoughts in a really awesome way. And then it's so much better than the real world, because in the virtual world, you can do so many more awesome things, because you can just design loads of wicked ways. And you can, like Twitter, for instance, Twitter's like your virtual presence online with what you think. That's good. It goes so far, man. It's like, this is you. You're going to be able to project out, but the virtual world's going to be so much better because there's so much more things you can do. And you can go on conferences with your virtual self, and you can put VR headsets and do cool shit with your virtual self. And this virtual, we're going to turn into cyborgs, man. We are cyborgs. We're cyborgs. Like Elon Musk says it well, man. We've got a phone. My phone's the most personal thing in my life. It's with me more than my parents, my mum, my girlfriend, my cat. It's literally next to my blooming dick all day. That's how personal it is, man. Like if that was integrated into me with my virtual online secure self, bro, what the hell? Like, everything's changed.
Yeah, and so let's go down that path a little further. Let's say you get this online virtual self. There can still be, and it's a kind of this black box identity that you have control over. There can still be tons of different interfaces. So you could still have, Twitter, and you could still have, basically these different integrations of how your information is displayed will display differently. So, and you can choose what to let out and what to let be displayed
and monetize and all that great stuff.
And monetize. So a way for people to think about that would be like our EOS Block Explorer. Like the EOS blockchain would basically be like our identity. And then these block explorers are different ways that present that data out to us. So yeah, it's just, it is a small difference in the way that it works, but it's such a huge difference on how the user experience is. All of a sudden we can be our full selves online, and we can let that be projected, as opposed to having to go to all these specific sites and like projecting it ourselves.
That's such a massive point, bro. I love it. That's it. That is the future. It's like, oh dude, that's so big. I'm just thinking about that. I was about to say something. I lost my trail of thought. One sec. You can cut this out. You can talk.
No worries. But what do you think's going to happen you mentioned MEOS. What do you think's going to happen in June? What's your feeling? What's your projection on that?
One sec. Let me just think about that one thing I was going to say.
Okay.
Just give me 1 sec. Yeah. And what I was going to say was, like, we haven't even got to like quantum computing, right? I know this is going way ahead of the future. So like right now, at the end of the day, like blockchain as it is today has a shelf life, because we know that eventually the Bitcoin blockchain will be able to hack it, right? So what I'm saying is like, there's so much stuff which is going to change in our lifetimes. And this is going to happen. Like having this online virtual self and all this great stuff, right, on a blockchain is awesome. But then you might have problems of people trying to hack into you. And then this might be locked down by your biometrics. So your virtual self online might be your biometrics, right? To get into it. So you might have people like trying to be you, use your skin or whatever. And then that all ties in with the quantum computing, because then like, bro, there's like, it's going to be mental what's going to happen with the quantum, because like, then you can have a computer which can process trillions of transactions. Obviously, they say that quantum computers aren't going to be like fast for everyday surfing the internet. That's not what they're going to be used for. They're going to be used for like really high intensity mental algorithms, which they can do basically an infinitely more than a 0 and 1. Do you know what I mean? So it's a 0 and 1 at the same time. I don't even know what happens with this. Like, what is it? What does that even mean? Is 0 or 1 at the same time? It just doesn't work. So there might even be quantum chains, and obviously I'm going on a bit of a rabbit hole here, but yeah, man, it's like eventually the virtual and real ourselves is going to merge, and it's going to be like this kind of integration. And then you can ask that question again about June, right? June 1st. Like, what do you think it's going to be? It's probably, I don't know. Actually, I'll let you speak for a bit. I'm trying to get all of my thoughts together again.
I know. Once we start going down that future rabbit hole, it starts to get wild really fast. We hit on Neuralink a little while ago too. What's your take on that? Like, how early of an adopter? How much do you dive into this, and how much do you have this like thought of retaining humanity and push back against it? Like,
I think about it a lot, man. And I think about it because of Joe Rogan. Like, I remember Elon Musk went on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he talks about like, he's got a very cynical view on AI, right? He's like very, very dark on it, which I get. But then there's people like George Gliedner, who I watch, who's very, very, very clever. And he says that AI can't be like human beings because AI can't be creative. So the difference between I don't think obviously Elon Musk gets a lot, but I don't think he understands that AI can be good at something you program it and be amazing at that one thing. But when a robot does something creative, so it does something which is not programmed to do, that's like something which is very, very, very difficult to do. And it's what human beings are really good at. We're creative, but robots can't be creative. How can they be creative? Like, do you know what I mean? It just doesn't work. How can a robot do something which it hasn't been told to do yet? Maybe it can do machine learning and keep learning, but basically there's a debate there whether it can do whatever. But yeah, like I watch Elon Musk a lot, and I think we do need to have some integration to AI, because like we said before in the podcast, there's so much information now which is unvalidated. We don't have the time as one brain to validate all this information on the internet. Like I said, like you can have eggs, for instance. Like, are they good or bad? We now, in this day and age, we think they're good for you because you can eat lots of eggs and there's healthy cholesterol, and because we know more about it. But there's a whole generation of people who don't. So we need to have something which can maybe decipher this information in an organic way through voting on a blockchain, right? So you have the technology which then is not plugged into the internet, but it sieves out the internet for you, because it's too difficult for us. Like we're young. Like, imagine if you're an old guy, like, oh, I can't be asked to keep going through all these blooming pages to find the right information. We need something which is going to aid us on that, because the internet and the technology world's, like, think about it. If you put all of the information in the world together, no human being can know it all. So we need something to help aid us with that. So yeah, I watch Elon Musk, and I think that we definitely need something, man. We definitely need something. And then if we're also going to have our virtual self online on a blockchain, we need something to store that. We need memory. Like we need a new memory. Like you think about it, your phone memory. Elon Musk said this: your phone memory never forgets. No, that's why you put it in your phone. It never forgets, right? So my memory forgets. I'll write something down 5 minutes ago, and I'll be like, what the hell was I going to say again? Our memories are kind of shit, really. They're good at remembering important things, though. That's the good thing about our memories, because we can't. That's it, right? The reason we can remember important stuff is because we don't remember everything, because then we wouldn't be able to think about the important thing, because we're human beings. It's like you want to remember how the lion tried to kill you more than how to carve a little thing on a wall or whatever as a caveman, right? You need to remember the important shit. So with we need to have some sort of built-in memory. I think a memory integrated with a blockchain which has an organic voting system of millions of participants, which can actually get to a point of this is a real article, which is going to be good for you, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense for sure. So if the Neuralink, Elon Musk mentioned this Neuralink and this basically full integration with your computer where you can kind of think questions and it will help you answer them, as opposed to having to type into your phone. How he explained it was the only thing that is slowing us down is the input.
These bad boys.
Yeah, it's our thumbs. Like we're having to type or we're having to voice communicate with our phone to ask. And so it's hard to get information as quickly as we could. So his idea is to basically turn that into a fire hose with a Neuralink where you're just connected to your internet and you can ask it questions, I guess, by thinking. So let's say that,
I think I was one step ahead of that. Like when you get that right, but then you've got all the information, then you need to know what information's right or wrong, right?
Okay. So you're talking about then integrating AI into that and having it like kind of sorted for you.
Yeah. So I'm not saying like, basically I'm saying he's dealing with the bandwidth problem. He's like making it so you can get the access, but then he hasn't, I don't know, obviously you might have thought about this, but like we just said, like there's so much information you might be able to ask the internet straight away, are onions good for me to before bed? And then you'll get one article or you get one bit of information which is wrong because everything's going right. And then, so I'm saying if he sorts out the bandwidth problem where we don't need to we can just think our computer and our brain, then we need something else to sieve through all the bullshit basically, because who knows what's right or wrong on the internet anymore.
So if that came out, let's say at the end of the year, Neuralink came out, would you put it on and start using it? Would you be a first adopter?
I probably wouldn't be able to afford it, but I don't know, man. Like I probably wouldn't be the first guinea pig, bro. I think I'd let a few people give it a go first, because like it is scary. It is scary. I always think about this, right? Like say we are basically limited. This is real deep, man. So we're basically limited by the size of our brain. Right. And Einstein was proven to have a slightly bigger brain in a certain part. So his brain was just a little bit bigger in the spatial part of learning, of thinking big. So, and then he thought up some amazing stuff. So it's kind of like if I got a Neuralink, which expanded my brain, it's like, whoa, I don't know where I'd be like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? I just know all this like crazy shit. Maybe it doesn't even work. We have no idea. It's like people didn't used to think you could drive a car over 30 miles an hour. Do you know what I mean? People actually thought that. They're like, oh, if you go over 20 miles an hour, your head's going to blow up. I was reading some stuff about that. I was just laughing. I was like, because they just didn't know. So I don't think any of us know what's going to happen. But it is weird. Like if we can actually extend our brain, it's like, obviously it's like if I'm standing here and you're standing there, your brain's double the size of me. Imagine what you could think. You can think some crazy shit. Like you could just be completely ahead of the game. Obviously I don't think computers think the same way as humans, but it's a big thing, isn't it? I don't know if I'd be doing it straight away, man.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
I think about it because to me it becomes like a philosophical question. All of a sudden it's like, okay, the first reaction is, oh, rad. What if I put it on first and then I got ahead of people and I was like smarter than everyone and I went and like, maybe I'd have a secret to beat the stock market or something,
Yeah, you think you probably would, yeah.
Yeah, but then the question becomes like, but why? Like, why get ahead of people? Like, what is kind of the meaning of being a human, and like, what is this experience all about? And is this experience really predicated or, focused on trying to get as far ahead of everyone as possible, or trying to like be as fulfilled as possible? And how does that, how do those things interact? So, at first I thought that I wanted to be an early adopter of the Neuralink, but then I also question like whether it's worth integrating like that at all, like, so
I'm listening, just finding you something which is quite interesting. Carry on.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a question for me. It becomes a philosophical question about what it means to be a human, what true fulfillment is. I mean, and that's when I started Happy Money Man, that's the basis of that moniker was, happiness, fulfillment, human relationships first, money and success kind of follows that naturally, if it even does, like, but it doesn't necessarily in the grand scheme of being a human, maybe doesn't matter. If you are kind of focused on the, so the long answer, I have no clue. I'd probably be so curious that I would want to try it out, but I question that a lot for sure.
It's like, it's like after, I don't know, I've got something, I don't know if you know a guy called Jason Silver. You heard of him before? He's a US guy. He's getting quite a lot of traction, but if you haven't, there's a really good video like a podcast, and he's talking to a guy called Lewis Holmes. He's got a YouTube channel, and it's like you just said, he talks about like, as soon as you get to the point where you don't have to worry about paying the rent, you got enough food, you got enough this, got enough that, as soon as your basic amenities of survival go out the window, then you start thinking about, why am I here? Like, what am I doing? So like, it's like you said, it's like really interesting. It's like, if you got a neural link which got you ahead of the game, and you kind of just was successful in everything, and you're human, the reason we're kind of doing this, we want to get bigger, we want to have more YouTube subscribers, we want to have more this, we want to have more that. We're just in the cycle of getting to where we want to be and have our project whatever we want to do, right? That's what we're doing. So if you suddenly get all of that and you know it all and you've done it, then you're like, shit, like, what am I doing? Why? Maybe get depressed, but you definitely watch that video, because it really goes down the deep rabbit hole of also like, how can we extend good feelings? Because think about it, like most people throughout their whole life work for one thing, when they get there, they achieve it. And that moment of achievement only lasts an hour, a week, a month, and then it's done. And you're like, what am I going to do? So if we can work out a way we can extend like the actual feeling of fulfillment, that would be awesome. Because then because it's like, we're only human, right? We're always looking for the next thing. So it's a massive topic. Like, and that's why the neural link's kind of scary, because it's like, suddenly suddenly if you know everything and you're rich and famous, whatever, but you can still have a family. Maybe we just generally, as human beings, need to just change the whole way we think about our relationship with other people. And like we just think about business, like being competitive. I got to beat them, you got to beat me, whatever. Competition, and competition's healthy at a certain degree, but I don't know, man. It's just crazy to think like how, if we had an economy which didn't run on proprietary competition, and it ran on like the mid value, like the middle was like green planet, the middle was economic prosperity, but it was a different cycle, a different system. I don't know, man. It's just like, what is it to be human? This is the big question. Like, we know how, but why? Like, what's going on? It's a big question.
Yeah, it is a big question, and I mean, there is a way to extend happiness and fulfillment. And I think it's through, kind of the ways that historically it's been is through meditation, through gratitude, through attempting to be present in the moment, so that, because really the only reality that exists is this moment that we're in, so a lot of us tend to live in the future trying to get to goals like you're saying, but then like we're missing really the only reality that exists that's happening right now. We're missing because we're working towards something in the future. People also live in the past. I live more in the future than I do in the past personally, but but meditation, like gratitude. Yeah. Oh, that's basically it though. The meditation, that gratitude, this something that's old as time that people have been doing forever, is trying to extend fulfillment and happiness.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he was saying, like, you get these big stars, and then they're like these huge stars, and then they're like, what's the next thing? Like, and then obviously you get it, like big stars, like they say they got 1 million subscribers, and then someone else gets 2 million more. It's like, you've still got 1 million subscribers, bro, but like humans, we have this weird thing where we're like, oh, well, they've got more than me now. Or do you know what I mean? Like, and he definitely watch this podcast, because I'm not saying it's my personal opinion, but he just puts it into an envelope, like what it is to be human. And it's like, we are just like these weird little animals with emotions, like, and we need, and like controlling your emotions for your future. And that's why I love blockchain, because, and this space is because I feel like I'm doing something which is bigger and greater than just the daily grind of making a bit of cash and like going on holiday. It's like, this is why I love crypto. This is why I could talk about it with you for an hour and a half, because it's like crypto, blockchain in general, it is really spiritual, because it's being built out of something which is bad. I feel like like you said before, it links back to what you said, like Dan Larimer, this has been built out of his human emotions. It's not being built out of, I want to just make a blockchain to make some quick money and piss off. Like, you know what I mean? It's been built out of human emotions. That's why it's so interesting, man. I think also with this online version of yourself, like being able to monetize and have more freedom, it will be able to extend that moment of gratitude and have more like fulfillment. Because people work all their life in a job they hate, get a pension, and then get cancer or something. It's like, do you know what I mean? All that fulfillment, it was a friend, I think it wasn't a friend, one of my friend's dads, he worked all his life in a factory, had a great pension ready for him. And then he died like 6 months after his retirement. Like, it's just crazy. And it's just like, shit, man, you didn't live in the moment your whole life. Literally whole life. Like, you just worked and worked and worked. Like, I'm going to retire and go and sail a yacht around the world. And damn.
Yeah. That's some of the biggest tragedies, I think, in the human experience, is the living in the future, or, you know, putting off living because of some future plan and then never getting to realize that is like, that's one of the biggest tragedies that we see, like, in the human experience, I think. And one of the blockchain things that's solved here is kind of that paradigm of how we create value and how we're rewarded for it. And this ability to, for more people to possibly do what they love and what they enjoy and be rewarded in kind of almost like micropayments, gig economy, that type of thing, where there's more peer-to-peer direct rewards for human interactions, where people can be themselves more or add value in the way that's specific to them and get paid for it, so that they can go on with being a human. You know, maybe that breaks a lot of people out of that, this cycle of work 60 years, retire for 10 and then die, you know? So.
Yeah. Like, you're basically monetizing your time. So it's like, when you work a job you hate, you're basically trading your time, right, for money. So yeah, we all know that, right? You're trading your time for money, but maybe in the future, because you are an asset and because you're you're a human being and you have thoughts and thinking, maybe you could actually, like blockchain allows you to do, is monetize yourself. So then you've got this income of value, which you can then buy goods and services with, but not have to actually force yourself to do something you hate for your time to get someone else rich. Basically, it's like, you know, you could monetize your genes, like GeneOS they're doing. You got a constant influx of gene data coming in. You can monetize your content because people like you. They're like, oh yeah, I'll give him some of the inflation. So it's going to get to the point where probably no one has to work. I said this to someone in Australia. I lived in Australia for a year. I lived there for 2 years. And I don't know about the Aussies, but they don't know about blockchain. Obviously there are people who do, but like, I'm talking to the folk, the local guys. I was working on a construction site, bloody impossible work. But I was like, dude, like with this blockchain stuff, like potentially you don't have to work, man, because if we can monetize ourselves and have all these great things. And it was like, but like, what do you mean we're not going to work? Like, what are we going to do then? And I was like, but we don't know what we're going to do now. We will know when we're there, because we didn't know what we're going to do when we were cavemen now. Like if you're a caveman and then you were like, hey, we're going to be sitting in front of a screen with a camera, with a microphone, talking to each other, like on a podcast, they obviously think you're crazy. So yeah, man, big topic, big topics we're going into right now. I'm loving it. I think the gut reaction a lot of people have when I've brought up this topic is like, I like to work, or, you know, like, or they look at me like I'm lazy, like, but that's not the case. Just as much human emotion, just as much like activity, just as much goal setting and accomplishment and productivity can come through. And I'm naturally hyper productive. I'm doing almost too much all the time, and I'd like constantly try to slow myself down. So the idea of not working isn't like not putting in effort. It's that like the effort that I put in is building something that like I'm most uniquely fit to build, you know, like bigger than yourself.
Yeah. Like this is what I get to do, is something that that I love doing. So I'm naturally decent at it, you know, as opposed to if I was working, I've worked phone sales in the past, you know, when I was working phone sales, like, man, that it wasn't my, you know, that was basically wasting a lot of value that I have to add. So, so I think it unlocks a lot of the potential. Humans have a lot of potential, and blockchain can unlock people doing what they're better at, you know? So.
Yeah. Well, it's like, it's taking away the fact that you have to like work a timely job, which you hate, to then actually being able to monetize yourself. But yeah, man, I think my mate just got back. Like, how long have we been going for? Should we wrap it up?
Oh, dude, we should probably definitely wrap it up. We went hard, and I think this definitely proved to be. I'll take my hat off, a Joe Rogan of EOS podcast right here. We did some. How
long did we go for? 2 hours?
Oh, it looks like we're close. It's hard to say.
Mate, I was in flow. You should definitely watch that Jason Silver thing, because he talks about like flow. So you have your future state, your past state. When you're in the future, you're anxious. When you're in the past, you're depressed. And that the flow is when you're actually there. And that's what I just did with you, man. We just flowed that.
So that was Jason Silva and Lewis Holmes, I think.
Yeah, that's it. And then the other one
mentioned was George Glyden.
George Glidner, Bill Buckley, Jason Silva, and also check out Mike Maloney. Those 4 people, the last 6 months have opened my mind to a lot of cool shit, man.
Cool. I'll check those out. And for people listening, this is the EOSwriter podcast, partnered now with the EOS podcast, the first podcast in EOS history. I've also got Mr. Happy Money Proxy. I've interviewed so many block producers. It's crazy. I'm getting close to 100 shows here. And Mr. Happy Money Proxy, I vote for block producers that are empowering people, that are empowering, transparent, and building community, because like we talked about today, this is a human experience, and I find block producers that know what time it is, and then I vote for them. So if you want a trusted vote, someone to trust with your vote, a steward of your vote, if you will, Mr. Happy Money Proxy is what's going on. MaxDapp, Max, it was a pleasure to have you on, man.
Yeah, dude, honestly, we smashed it right there, bro. Like, I love crushing. We should do this again, man. We should do this like once a month. And like I said, I'm maxed out. Yeah, go on.
Yo, we'll do it once a month for sure. And Max, tell people where they can find you, where to find the EOSwriter. Like, tell the people what's up.
Yeah, perfect. So you can check out my YouTube channel. I talk about EOS, Bitcoin, do loads of DApp reviews, just general crypto stuff. EOSwriter.io is the hub for EOS. So you can go there. You can find all of our content. Yeah, it's great there. And hopefully there's going to be a new token coming out soon. So check that out. And yeah, man, if you're into crypto, me and the EOSwriter and obviously Brandon, we are the guys. We love it. So if you want to reach out to us, Telegram. If anyone's still here after 2 hours, you're a legend, by the way. Firstly, and secondly, MaxDapp official YouTube channel. MaxDapp official Telegram channel. I've got a channel. We've got like 50 people in there. We just talk crypto stuff. So check us out.
Killer. I'll hop into your Telegram channel, and that's it for today. My EOS podcast, my EOSwriter podcast friends. Cheers to you, Max, and
see you guys.
Until next time.